Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning for me, and welcome to the installment of the KIO series around anxiety. And I have to tell you right off the bat, if I haven't said so before, I don't really like the words addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma because they come from the clinical field. The only reason that I use them, because this is a spiritual method, really. This isn't therapy. This is not therapy at all. This is not counseling. Um, this is not something where you come and get prescribed medications. I'm not a doctor, none of that. I only use these words, depression, anxiety, addiction, trauma, because these words are in our culture. We know about them, right? We hear about them. We read about them in Time magazine, on TV, everything. To me, they're very abstract terms because I like to talk about actual human experience. Like, what are you actually feeling right now? Like, what thoughts are appearing right now? Um, that's human experience. To be present to human experience is much more important than, for me, these abstract principles or diagnoses or whatever. But I use these just because I know that they're in the culture, and that if I use these words, it points to experience in a certain way, and then I can point to it in an even more direct way from there. So we're going to talk about anxiety today. Anxiety. The funny thing is that so many people are coming to our center having been previously diagnosed with anxiety disorder, right? Everything's a disorder today, you know. And that's why it's so divorced from human experience, because what we find out a lot of times is that, hey, it's not that the person has an anxiety disorder, it's just there was trauma. Bad things happened to them. Scary things happened to them, leaving an imprint in the system, which makes them anxious on a regular basis. It's like that. That's human experience, right? Anxiety disorder sounds like there's something weird or off or wrong about you. You're sick, you know. We have to be careful with those words, right? So I use them, but I use them lightly. I use the word depression lightly. Again, to try to point you back to experience, like from awareness, exploring your experience that you call depression. Same with anxiety, pointing you back to looking from awareness to explore your experience, to see what this anxiety is all about, and then freeing yourself from it, right? So I think one way to really bring it to experience is just to know that anxiety occurs by way of the Velcro effect. Again, it's just thoughts connected to feelings and sensations in the body. Now, anxiety is usually about the future, right? That aspect of our thought stream. So if I sit here and I think, oh my gosh, I have a bunch of bills that I have due, I have no money in the bank, and what am I going to do? See, those are thoughts. And then the body can feel that anxious feeling come up, right? Okay. Now, you could be thinking about anything, not just money or bills. It could be anything. And people who have been labeled with anxiety disorder, if it's not trauma-based or from something in the past, it's usually because the mechanism of their mind tends to worry a lot, future tripping. That's what it is. And that's why there's anxiety there, or fear there, on a regular basis. So we have to just really start to inquire into these stories about future, right? In order to let that anxiety come to rest more. Before we get into inquiry, one of the simplest of practices are those, just the ones that I laid out early in the series, the KIO series, which is just resting in the moment, being awake and aware here, present to this moment, and then doing that throughout the day in short moments, over and over, coming back to just being present, especially present without thoughts every now and then. If thoughts come through, present to those thoughts, seeing those come and go. The reason that's so important is because when you get anxious during the day, or when you have anxious thoughts, then by resting as awareness, you're already able to notice them, right? So you see some thoughts about the bills you have to pay, or how you've got to go meet with your mother-in-law on Sunday and you don't like that, you're scared about that, or got an upcoming medical procedure you're thinking about. See, throughout the day, if you just watch these thoughts, just notice them coming and going. And then when there's a space in which the thought or the thoughts comes to rest, coming down into the body, just feeling that, just like we always do with this work. Come down and feel, but now with all those thoughts on there, right? Feel, rest, dance with that. Bring your attention into that feeling. Just let it be there, right? And often that helps the anxiety or the anxious feeling just diminish a little bit, just because you're giving it rest and gentle, loving attention, noticing space around the sensation there. And then you just kind of come back to presence and go about your day or get involved with whatever. And then just notice again, trust your body actually. Trust your body. When you start to feel anxious, just know you're probably in the future. That's all. You're thinking about the future. Your body will tell you exactly what to look at. So let's say today you're getting in your car and you're doing fine, everything's wonderful, and just watching traffic go by and trying to find the place you're driving to, and then all of a sudden you start to get an anxious feeling. What is that? I'm feeling anxious. And then you stop. Take a moment. Don't close your eyes while you're driving, obviously. But at some point, take a moment and sit and just feel into that energy. And you can just then, from that energy, you can just start to notice, what am I thinking? Start looking at your thoughts and you'll see, oh yeah, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. And without doing any inquiry, just notice the thoughts. Hear them, see them, words, pictures. Let them come, observe them, let them fall away. Come back down into the body, feel, rest, and allow that feeling. That's just so helpful. That's tier 1. Remember, tier 1 tools, no hand gestures, nothing like that. Not even really any inquiry. But you can do inquiry with anxiety. It can be very powerful, right? Because sometimes we don't know exactly what we're worried about, what we're anxious about. We know maybe a general sense of it, but there's a lot of it that's unconscious. A lot of our thoughts are unconscious that are creating and reinforcing this anxiety. So, again, trusting your body when you feel anxious, you can just say, as you feel into it, you can say, as a reverse inquiry, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just throw that out there. Don't believe it. Don't start thinking about it. Just say, there's nothing to be afraid of. And then from awareness, start noticing your thoughts. And your mind will say, yes, there's something to be afraid of, right? Pictures, words. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. This isn't going to happen. That's not going to happen. And now you've brought that worm again out of the hole. Remember the wormhole metaphor. The worm being the set of words and pictures, or maybe it's just one picture, or one set of words, or whatever. But then use one of the tools. You know, it could just be the tier 1 tool of just witnessing and noticing, like we talked about. But it could also be simple inquiry. Like, you see these words and pictures, but you're real stuck to them. You know, that's when tier 2 tools are helpful, is when you feel really identified with something and just witnessing doesn't seem possible in that moment. So just do simple inquiry. Move your attention from the words and pictures just to the tapping sound for a moment, noticing the sound of it, the sensation of it. Stay there for a bit, because that's the space in which the thoughts are, or that's the place in which the thoughts are kind of letting go, falling away. Even if you don't notice that, just keep your attention, on the tapping itself. That's the key. The thoughts will sort of disconnect on their own, or there'll be more space with them at that point, and then come down into the body and feel, and rest with that feeling, using any of the somatic tools that have been helpful that I've showed you. Like, you might dance with it by feeling into it, right? If there's no form or shape. If there's a form or shape, you might bring those metaphysical, those fake hands, those imaginary hands around that and dance with it that way. Otherwise, you might just feel it, and let it be there. Just resting and allowing it. So inquiry can be helpful. You can go deeper and deeper with reverse inquiry. Instead of just saying, I'm not afraid of anything, which is a soft inquiry, if you would, you could turn up the heat. You can say, everything's going to be fine always. And the ego goes, no, it's not. Something bad is going to happen. I'm going to get sick. My child is going to get sick. Something like that. See, you're conjuring up the worm again, but sort of deeper layers of the worm, if you will, by turning up the heat with that inquiry. Everything's going to be fine always. I'm always going to be taken care of. Nothing to worry about. And then watch it come up. Let it come up. Doomsday scenarios. Scary things, pictures, words that tell you things like, I'm not going to have enough money, whatever it is. Let it all form in front of you. You have so many tools that I've given you. You can do so many different things with this, to work with this. One is, again, just resting with it and allowing it, noticing it. And sometimes just noticing and resting is all it takes. Things just naturally kind of fall away just from that. But again, sometimes we get gripped, especially with anxiety. We get gripped by these thoughts. It's like they're right there in our face. We can't do anything but think about them and look at them, and they don't fall away. And it's because we're identified with them. And so you can come back to one of our early tools, like the tracking. After you move your focus away from these thoughts that are there, come back to tracking your finger. Remember that one? There's another tool that helps. It just shifts your focus for a second from the thoughts so you can get into your body now again, right? Coming down in to feel and rest. And if you're doing this with me now, you can just turn the video off. I can't go at the pace that works for every viewer. I can only just do this inquiry and sort of show it to you, and then you have to stop the video if you need more time. You can always feel free to stop the video if you need more time to work with something. But here again, here we are in the body, just resting and allowing and feeling into, dancing with that energy. Taking the word off of it. If you find yourself saying, oh, this is anxiety, this is fear, this is something, be careful with that. Because even though you think you're just reporting what's going on in the body, those labels tend to reinforce and velcro themselves to the feeling, keeping it there. So if you've got that going on, just pull those words up and hear them. Fear, anxiety, or see them spelled out. Allow those to come to rest. Because we want to be in the body without words and pictures. That's a more direct experience of this energy. And that's where the healing happens, right there. Okay? So again, just use different reverse inquiries that are the opposite of what you believe in order to conjure up these layers of anxiety, thoughts, and feelings, right? And then clear them by just being with them or using the tools. I want to also come back to the utility inquiry around anxiety. It can be very helpful. Remember, utility has to do with the purpose or the usefulness behind our suffering. We all have a utility behind our suffering. We don't suffer for no reason. There's a utility behind it, at least we think. And so with anxiety, you could just ask, what's the utility around being anxious? Or what do I get out of being anxious? Is another way of saying it. And I stop and listen and watch from awareness. Maybe what comes up is, well, that's how I stay safe. I've got to protect myself. Whatever it is, let it come up. See the utility in words and pictures. And rest with that. Just let that be. It's just a story. That's all it is. Watch it, allow it. Again, sometimes tier 1 watching is all you need to do, is just rest and allow. See it. Maybe they start to fall away. But again, sometimes things get sticky, and so you can come back to one of the hand tools, like the tapping or the tracking or focus shifting or something. Again, so you can come back into the body, right? And rest with that feeling or sensation. So now you know how to use the tools on anxiety. Love you. See you next time.